It was 3 a.m. The night was calm, with only the distant hum of traffic in the background. I was in a deep sleep, the kind where you forget the world exists. But then came the knock. At first, it was quiet, like a gentle tap on the door, but it didn't take long before the banging started. It wasn't a typical knock. It sounded like someone was pounding their fist against the door, as if their life depended on it. I jumped out of bed, my heart racing. The knocking wasn't stopping. Confused and still half asleep, I staggered to the front door, trying to make sense of what was going on. As I reached the door, I heard a voice from the other side. "Open up. It's the HOA police. We've got a report." I froze. HOA? What were they doing here at this hour? And police? This couldn't be right. We had no issues with the homeowners association, at least not anything that warranted a midnight visit. I glanced over at my 12-year-old son, Ethan, who was sitting up in bed, wide-eyed. He had heard the ruckus, too. "Dad, who is it?" he whispered. "Stay in your room, buddy." "I'll check it out," I replied, trying to calm my nerves. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my gut. This wasn't normal. I peered through the peephole in the door. There, in the dim light, I saw a man in a dark uniform. He wasn't wearing a badge, but he had a flashlight in one hand and something that looked like a clipboard in the other. "Let me in," the man shouted. "I need to inspect your property." I wasn't buying it. No legitimate HOA officer would show up like this, especially not in the middle of the night. I stepped back, thinking fast. If this was some sort of scam, I had to protect my family. "Who are you?" "I don't know any HOA officers who visit at this hour," I called out, trying to stall. The man didn't respond with any more words, just more banging. At that moment, I knew something was off. I couldn't risk opening the door to someone who might not be who they claimed to be. I quickly glanced at the phone on the table, wondering if I should call the police. But just as I reached for it, I heard a voice again. This time, it was from Ethan. "Dad, what's going on?" I turned to see him standing in the hallway, holding his baseball bat tightly. My heart sank. Ethan wasn't one to get scared easily, but he knew something wasn't right either. "Get back to your room, Ethan. Lock the door and stay there," I said firmly. But it was too late. The man at the door had heard us, and the banging intensified. My instincts kicked in. I needed to make sure my family was safe. Section 2. The fire that changed everything suddenly. Without warning, the door flew open. I hadn't unlocked it, but the force was enough to jar the frame and break the lock. Standing there in front of me, a man in a dark uniform pushed the door wide open, ready to step inside. I had no idea what his intentions were. But one thing was certain. This wasn't someone who should be here. I wasn't prepared to find out why he was breaking into my house. In the chaos, I heard Ethan's voice again, louder this time. "I'm not letting him hurt you, Dad." I turned around just in time to see Ethan, still holding his bat, rushing toward the door. His eyes were full of fear and determination. "Ethan, no!" I shouted, but it was too late. Before I could react, Ethan ran past me and straight into the hallway. In his panic, he grabbed my hunting rifle, which I had kept locked away in the closet. I had never taught him how to use it properly, but adrenaline had pushed him past his usual fear. The intruder froze as he saw Ethan holding the rifle, the barrel pointing directly at him. There was a brief moment of silence, and then in an instant my son pulled the trigger. A loud shot echoed through the house, followed by the sound of the man stumbling back. He hit the ground hard, but he wasn't moving. I rushed toward Ethan, who was now in shock, his hands trembling from the weight of what had just happened. "What did you do?" I gasped, looking at the man lying on the floor. "He was going to hurt you, Dad." "I didn't know what else to do," Ethan muttered, still in disbelief. "I didn't know what to say. My son had just opened fire on an intruder, on a fake HOA officer, no less." The gravity of the situation hit me all at once. I had never thought I would see the day when I would have to confront something so dangerous, and I certainly never imagined it would be my 12-year-old son who would protect us. But in that moment, Ethan acted with a bravery far beyond his years. I dialed 911 immediately. The operator's calm voice was a stark contrast to the chaos I felt. 911, what's your emergency?" "We've got a man down. He broke into our house claiming to be an HOA officer." My son shot him in self-defense. Please send help, I said, barely able to steady my voice. The response was quick. Within minutes, police arrived, followed by paramedics. It turned out that the man wasn't an HOA officer at all. He was part of a small group of criminals targeting homes in the area. They had been using fake badges and impersonating HOA officials to gain entry, looking to rob unsuspecting residents. Ethan's bravery had saved our lives, but the cost was steep. It took a long time for both of us to process what had happened that night. The fear that had gripped me earlier gave way to a deep sense of gratitude toward my son, but I also felt a burden of guilt. He was so young. He should never have been put in a position like that. The days that followed were filled with endless questions and a sense of disbelief. How had things escalated so quickly? Why had they targeted us? And most importantly, how could I ensure this never happened again? As the weeks passed, I spent more time talking to Ethan, trying to help him process the trauma of that night. He had done something that many adults wouldn't have been able to do under the same circumstances, but in his young mind, he didn't see it as anything extraordinary. To him, it was simple. He protected his family. After everything was sorted out, I knew that our lives had changed forever. The incident had not only tested our physical safety, but also our emotional resilience. But one thing was clear. Never again would I underestimate the lengths people would go to for a criminal scheme. I would protect my family with everything I had, just as Ethan had done that night. Suddenly, without warning, the door flew open. I hadn't unlocked it, but the force was enough to jar the frame and break the lock. Standing there in front of me, a man in a dark uniform pushed the door wide open, ready to step inside. I had no idea what his intentions were, but one thing was certain. This wasn't someone who should be here. I wasn't prepared to find out why he was breaking into my house. The adrenaline surged through my veins, and every inch of my body screamed to do something, anything, to stop this stranger from entering. But before I could take a step forward, the sound of a heavy footstep echoed behind me. In the chaos, I heard Ethan's voice again, louder this time. "I'm not letting him hurt you, Dad." I spun around just in time to see my son, Ethan, who was only 12, holding my baseball bat. His eyes were wide with fear, but there was something else too, a determination, a readiness to protect the one person who had always protected him. "Ethan, no!" I shouted in panic, but it was too late. In a blur of motion, Ethan dashed past me, his hands gripping the bat as he made a move toward the intruder. But just as quickly as he had rushed forward, something caught his eye, a glint of metal in the hallway. In his panic, Ethan bolted straight to the closet where I kept my hunting rifle, one I had secured for emergencies, hidden away in a locked box. I had never fully explained to him how to use it, but he had seen me handle it enough to understand its weight and function. And in this moment, the adrenaline coursing through him took over his body's normal sense of hesitation. "Dad, I can't let him get to you," he mumbled, almost more to himself than to me. Before I could stop him, Ethan ripped the rifle out of its case, the cold steel heavy in his small hands. The intruder's attention was now fully on Ethan, and the moment seemed to stretch out, suspended in a shocking silence. The man's eyes locked with Ethan's, and for the briefest second, the room felt like it was frozen in time. Then, with a shaky breath, Ethan pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, shattering the quiet of the house. It was loud, deafening, and felt as though the whole world was crashing around us. The intruder's body jerked backward, his legs buckling beneath him. He collapsed onto the floor with a heavy thud, and a silence fell over the room that was only punctuated by the ringing in my ears. I rushed to Ethan's side, my heart pounding in my chest. The rifle was still in his hands, but his arms were trembling violently, and his face was ashen. "What did you do?" I gasped, looking down at the man on the floor. He wasn't moving, and I couldn't tell if he was alive or dead. The reality of the situation was beginning to hit me hard. "He was going to hurt you, Dad." "I didn't know what else to do," Ethan whispered, his voice quivering. He was in shock, and so was I. My son had just shot a man who, despite what he had claimed, wasn't an HOA officer at all. He was a fake, part of a criminal scheme designed to prey on unsuspecting families like ours. I was proud of Ethan's bravery, but I was also terrified for him. This was more than just a moment of fear. It was a life-altering event. I shakily dialed 911, my fingers fumbling as I punched in the numbers. The operator's voice came through, steady and calm. a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around me. 911, what's your emergency? We've got a man down. He broke into our house claiming to be an HOA officer. My son shot him in self-defense. Please send help immediately, I managed to say, my voice unsteady as I tried to grasp what had just happened. The operator assured me that help was on the way, and within minutes the flashing lights of police cars and paramedics illuminated the street outside our house. The paramedics rushed in, carefully checking the man on the floor, but it was too late. He was dead. When the police arrived, they explained that this man was part of a small group of criminals who had been targeting homes in the area. They had been posing as HOA officers, using fake badges and convincing lies to gain access to people's homes in the dead of night. They would steal valuable possessions, and if anyone resisted, things could have gone much worse. Ethan's bravery had saved our lives, but it had come at a cost. Not just physical, but emotional as well. He was just a kid, and the weight of what had just transpired was almost too much for him to process. The trauma of shooting someone, self-defense or not, would stay with him for a long time. In the days that followed, I did my best to comfort Ethan, to assure him that what he had done was necessary and that he had protected our family. But I also saw the toll it took on him. He wasn't the same kid who had once happily played baseball in the backyard. He had seen what a real weapon could do, and it had changed him. For me, I couldn't shake the haunting images of that night. The sight of the man on the floor, Ethan's trembling hands, the sound of the gunshot that would forever be etched into my memory. After everything was sorted out, I knew that our lives had changed forever. I would never look at the world the same way again. I had always believed I could protect my family, but in that moment, Ethan had done something that I hadn't even been prepared to do. He had defended us when we needed it most. One thing became crystal clear in the aftermath. Never again would I underestimate the lengths people would go to for a criminal scheme. And never again would I take for granted the safety of my family, knowing how quickly things could spiral out of control.